Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Green Arrow FPL podcast from Fantasy Football Hub as we exit a crazy double game week 24, very long double game week 24, with an FA Cup and Carabao semis and all sorts in it. And we look ahead to double game week 25. My name is Fergi, and I'm here with lucky Dave Moyes owner Rich Clarke. Sorry, I'm here with Rich Clarke. Not that I'm bitter at all as an Arna slot owner. Rich, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in double game week 24?
Hi Fergie, hi everyone. I had a green in the end, although
a 98th minute green.
98 minutes last night, it wasn't looking that way. What a swingy game week! It will live very long in the memory as both one of the longest game weeks of all time, end to end, including the planning. And also one of the most roller coaster like ones, I think. I was on holiday when the news broke. I watched your pod in a nice sunny bar, and then when you were on with Ben and Gian, and then the following day, I mean, all that was out the window, wasn't it? And
bloody redundant.
everything went into chaos as the potential double game weeks were announced, and before my team had even kicked a ball, Chris Wood had scored a hat-trick, and that seems a long time ago. So, but really, it was all about, before we get into teams, and specifics, it was all about Moyes v Slot in the end, wasn't it? And it seems to have completely taken over from normal FPL point scoring, hasn't it?
It is, and it's interesting now. We'll touch on that point a bit later, Rich. I know you mentioned it earlier, but whether the actual chip itself, regardless of any sort of outcomes, whether it's actually sort of enhanced FPL and enhanced the sort of experience of the game for users, or whether it is a bit of a side thing, a kind of non-FPL fad on the side. But we'll touch on it later for sure. But yeah, well done, Rich. 126 points.
Yeah.
And it was also just to add, it was also Moyes versus Slot versus triple captainers, who obviously did really well as well.
And like many people, I was all set to play the triple captain, from my sunbed, and spent the next 36 hours wondering whether I should or not, and decided that 5 games was too irresistible. So, like the majority of the community, put the assistant manager in play. And but well done if you did triple captain and you're watching. Fantastic result on Salah.
Incredible.
And there's still an opportunity to do that again this week because the fixtures look even better this week for him. So great outcome for triple captainers, but good outcome for assistant managers as well. We've had a good start and we're only a third of the way through. So I like it.
A lot of high scores this week, isn't it? I haven't seen a lowish score for many engaged managers at all. There seems to be a everyone won, didn't they, in one sort of fashion? And if you didn't, you were incredibly unfortunate. As you can see, we also have a fantastic guest with us this afternoon, and none other than the reigning, we can still say that, Jonas, for a few months yet, FPL champion, Jonas Sand Labakk. Absolutely great guy, great manager. Jonas, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in double game week 24?
Hi, and thank you. Well, I'm doing really good if you look past the massive red arrow I got in game week 24. Yeah. So I ended the game week with 108 points and a red arrow of around 130, 40k or something like that.
That's crazy. 108 and a massive red is crazy, isn't
it? I didn't even check my rank mid game week because I knew it was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was tough, and you messaged me yesterday with a couple of tales of woe, Jonas. I haven't actually got the violin set up, but if I did have it set up, it would be playing. So just everyone imagine the violin is playing as Jonas just goes to a couple of things that happen. And you actually told me this before that 98th minute crippler on your assistant manager Slot as well. How was your last few weeks gone?
Well, I think it was around half time, maybe I told you.
Yeah.
But in game week 23, I did Solanke, who got injured, to Calvert-Lewin to set up for 24. He got injured. Then I did Calvert-Lewin in 24 to Njai, who also went off after around 20, 30 minutes or something with an injury. And and the icing on the cake was the Everton equalizer in the 98th minute as a slot owner and a Liverpool supporter.
You forget
that was rough.
You forget Ezri Konsa's in your team as well, Jonas, who you've held on for a while for the double as well.
No, I bought him in 24.
You bought him in 24.
Yeah.
So you've gone from hamstring to double hamstring to a 98th minute equalizer, which crushes your dream. A tough few weeks. But other than that, as you say, you've had a pretty good season. Obviously, hard to emulate last year, but you've been kind of hovering around there. I've just got your fancy football hub profile up now. You've been sort of hovering around 250 to 300 for the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks, it seems. What are the kind of highlights and lowlights of your season so far?
Well, up until game week 14, I was ranked below 1 million or over 1 million, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I had 8 green arrows in a row.
Nice.
And I felt unstoppable finally.
Yeah.
Again. And turned out I wasn't.
You came back down. You came back down to earth. You used all those all the tokens of luck and variance and everything else all last season, I think, didn't you, Jonas? But yeah, no, another really good season, and you actually inspired me to start. So I should have said this actually when you were on in pre-season. You said a few things, and one of them really stuck with me around the sort of 90-minute play-in men. You were actually referring to Brian. No, you weren't. To Bruno Fernandes, I think, at the main time of when you were saying it in pre-season. But I've had a couple of sliding doors moments in my season, picking up Brian Mbeumo and Chris Wood in game week 5 and game week 6, and every week I think of selling them. I've got your words ring in my ears, and I've come close to selling them both, really, really close, and both of them at certain periods. I think Mbeumo went through a period of didn't score for 4 weeks, and I was on the brink of selling him, and I was like, no, just hold on, and he scored like 40 points in the next 3 to 4 game weeks, and Chris Wood has done the same, right? It's just been absolutely mental, and the hat-trick last week to top it off. I am thinking of selling Wood this week, but we'll touch on that. But yeah,
I actually remember that Mbeumo run where he played really, really wide.
Exactly.
And I think he had 1 shot in 5 games or something.
He did.
Had a total of like 0.08 expected goals or something.
Exactly that.
Which is obviously very bad.
And then he just went on this crazy run. I think he had 4 weeks. He was like 8, 9, 14, 8 or something, and just completely turned my season around. So, but yeah, thanks for the advice there, Jonas. It really, really helped. You were on slot, I was on slot. So just to remind everyone who listened to the last pod, we podded with Ben Krellin and Jan Batra on the Thursday evening. And then obviously the double game week news dropped on the Friday morning. So the last pod became quickly redundant as all these plans sort of changed to, goodness me, assistant managership, or stay with the triple captain. I was going to make the Gakpo move on that Thursday evening, which would probably have meant I'd have played it on Moyes, I think, or I may have played the triple captain. But again, sort of slide indoors one way or the other. I had the gap to go straight onto slot, and we'll talk about this later. I think about this pros and cons of the Moyes versus slot, because I get the vibe on social media that Moyes owners generally, as a general, they think they've won is kind of the vibe I'm getting. Whereas I've got an argument that you've had a great week, but I think you need to measure the outcome a little bit later on in the season.
I think it's a good start. I mean,
it's an excellent start. Absolutely.
I've not been Everton's greatest fan in 20 years of playing this game, but my gosh, that he came through. He came through this week, but it is early days, and it's one of those chips that I don't think you can judge on 1 week. You have to look back at it over the 3 weeks to say how well have you done. However, it could be played later in the season, and someone could come up with 2 1-pointers and a 0 if it goes wrong. So there's huge variance with it, So
I honestly think
I don't know what you're going to get.
I honestly think that we're not going to get the full outcome. And I suppose at a meta level, you could say this about every season with the chips and things, but we're not going to get the full outcome until sort of game week 37, I think, when the last of the chips is used, because the butterfly effect potentially of not playing a triple captain this week, where Salah may blank, right? He's likely not to be may do. You may put on Isak in 33, you may put on someone like Mbuemo in 36, and all of a sudden they get something out of nothing. But you could never have foreseen or planned that. We can't say at this moment, I'm going to play my assistant manager on Glasner in 36, because at the moment we're 3 months away from that period of the season. So I really think that while everyone seems to have had a good week, it's especially those who owned Wood and captain Salah at least, or triple captain, or played Slot or Moyes, I still feel is the impact of playing it this week. There's a massive butterfly effect on next week and the week after. You could do Moyes to Emery now, and he could, that could lead to a 50-point manager week, or it could lead to 4 or 6 points. You just never know, do you? Anyway, I'm going on and on and on here, but yeah, there's definitely a pro Everton, pro Moyes we've won thing, which I'm like, get back in your box just for a week or two. As a bitter Slot owner, I say that. But yeah, we've got the spaffometer out, Rich. Dusted yes. him off. We both spaffed our wild cards, like the spaffiest of spaffs in game week 6. Yeah. We both doubled our rank in game week 6. Yeah. Yes. It'd be interesting to see. Obviously, think it's a bit too early, as I said, to kind of rank the assistant manager. If you were to rank it this minute, Rich, would you say?
I think I'd put a provisional smashed it in there for Moyes. Yeah, I think that's fair. I'd argue for that on 22 points on 1 week. I mean, I think now you'll be thinking, well, with three games to come over 2 weeks, you'll be looking at least 40 plus, wouldn't you, from it? And I think as a benchmark over say a steady pick like Arteta or a Slot or something, once you get up to 40 plus, you're adding some table bonus in there, and it does, from having experience getting some table bonus, it does make a big difference to rank, because all of a sudden it drops in right at the end. Crazy. And you get a big bump, and it's nice, So I think if that hadn't happened, that goal at the end last night, I think things may be very different for people. Now you're going to see all the Moyes owners continuing to chase table bonus. Yeah. The Slot owners have to stick, really, because they've got a double game week. So we're all off to chase the next Holy Grail and live or die by the sword, and it will inspire other people to get on board this week with their assistant managers. And I know you've got a slide coming up with the best picks later on, which I'm looking forward to going through. But yeah, no matter what you think of it, it's a very volatile chip. So here we go.
How do you feel as a Slot owner, Jonas? Do you feel like are you pleased you put it on Slot still? Obviously, bearing in mind it'll be on Slot in 25 as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really that bitter. I think it's fine. I liked the decision before I made it as well. Yeah. And in hindsight, of course, Moyes has done better so far, but you never know what Emery will do next week, because I suppose most Moyes owners will be moving to Emery.
Come on,
he might get, as you said, he might get 4 points or whatever over those 2 games, and Slot might get 18. Yeah. And then there's a whole different case. Yeah. So I still have 2 weeks left of the chip, and I can decide afterwards if I'm happy or not.
Have you got?
As of now, I'm saving a free transfer,
exactly.
which I can use for getting. Well, we can go into transfer plans later, but I can make a transfer or save one for blank game week 29 or whatever. So I think it's fine. I'm not that bothered.
Yeah, same. I feel like I'm happy in the more sort of medium term thing of it, as you say, saving a transfer. Probably got the best manager for the week as well. Obviously, a lot of people couldn't go for Slot because they already had 3 Liverpool. They're going to find themselves in the same, in the same boat this week as well. So I just feel kind of all being equal. If Liverpool go and beat both teams this week, which they probably should, as they should have last week, I feel it'll work out okay for Slot owners. But yeah, I mean, Moyes, those are moments. I wish I could have had it myself as a FPL manager. You know, that last minute crazy, completely unexpected 98th minute goal. It's just the things you
if I can sum up my mood, I was watching the game alone at home. And I think when Salah got his goal about midway through the second half or late in the second half. I mean, bear in mind I've captained him, right? He's my captain. The feeling that I had, I mean, it was completely the opposite. It's like you don't own him at all when it goes in because of the triple captain impact. I just want to go to bed. I just literally have not even bothered.
And the assistant manager impact as well, wasn't it? It was the thing you didn't want because Liverpool hit the front as well. Crazy.
Exactly, and I'm just sitting around. I'm not even really watching. I'm doing something else. I've got the game on in the background, and then the change in mood.
I can't even imagine
that goes
it,
in. I mean, I'm literally running around the living room screaming. I could not believe it, you know. Yeah. And so it's a moment, a bit like the Watkins goal in the Euros or something like that. It's just one of those moments, you know.
Yeah, it's funny because it's sort of completely not related to FPL. It didn't matter who scored or assisted. Really, the swing was for the actual Everton goal, the result, rather than anything else. Wasn't it? Absolutely crazy. And Salah missed a good earlier chance as well to make it 3-1, which would have again swung everything even worse on his head. Crazy times.
I think I read somewhere that the swing from that 90th minute goal, like Slot versus Moyes, was like 12, 13 points or something crazy like that.
I think it is. It's massive. It's huge, isn't it? Just say hello to the chat. FPL Gaza is in, and he says Gordon, Hall, and Isak all train, so don't have to worry about Gordon not being fit. Jovan Kotevsky, Alan's a red. He says, evening, gents. Are we all doing Isak to Watkins? We'll touch on that a bit later. FPL Freddy is in. Paul Van Rensburg. Chris Woodstock, Immortal Technique, Claire FPL says a safety score was 122 this week. That
mad.
It's mental.
Mad,
but she scored 112, but didn't play any chips, so she's looking good there. Well done, Claire. We Love FPL is in as well. Zara Kennedy, 124 points and a red arrow. Madness. You must be flying high, Zara, to have a red Fantasy
FC. How hard do you have to work to get a green arrow? It's astonishing.
Fantasy FC is in. Sokan says 127 a grey arrow, but life is bitter when you sell wood and bench Munoz.
I bench Munoz as well. Yeah.
32 points in those two there. Bales Aru, Di Thomas is in. Big Lou, AP UK as well. When Salah scored, Liverpool's second cost me 10 points at the time. Yeah, it's absolutely mental. Rich, we've got the sort of rest of the season with Ben Krellin's planet in front of us.
Yeah.
Obviously, so much has happened in these last 2 weeks since we podded last. We've had the FA Cup played, the draw confirmed for the next round, the Carabao confirmed. We've had Blank 29 confirmed. We've had Double Gameweek 25 confirmed. It's absolutely crazy. Just want to talk through how all this impacts your thoughts.
Forgive me if you're listening and you know a lot of this already, but for those that may be tuning in, I will give a quick summary of what's happened since we last podded. So the lie of the land is that if you have been hiding under a rock or not listening, we have an immediate double game week this week for Liverpool and Aston Villa. That was confirmed after Liverpool beat Tottenham in the semi-final, the second semi-finals of the Carabao Cup, and will now reach the final in game week 29. Therefore, their fixture with Villa that week that was scheduled for then was cancelled. But by surprise, and this is really the fixture that caught everybody out, that game was brought forward rather than pushed back. Everyone thought that fixture may go into game week 33 and create a big double there. It's actually been brought forward to game week 25. I think really the policy of the FA, which may continue in future game weeks, was to particularly look after the teams that are still in Europe. So in the Europa League, the Conference League, the Champions League, it's tried to ease their fixture congestion as those competitions reach the later stages. And so therefore they brought that Liverpool fixture forward. They would have brought the Tottenham Fulham fixture forward had Tottenham won as well. But we have a double. And so we have a double as a result of that. And that really, when it was announced, really helped with people making their decision to play their assistant manager chip in game week 24, and I'm sure it influenced your two's decision to put it on slot because you're effectively getting 4 consecutive Liverpool games in 2 weeks. Now, it's not too late to play your assistant manager chip this week if you haven't played it last week. And in fact, if you've had some triple captain success and want to keep the momentum going and go straight onto that and play it this week, it's not a bad idea. But we'll talk chip strategy more in a bit. Going back to the fixtures, the next challenge, of course, as you can see, is game week 29. So this is a good week to have a little count up across your squads and see how many players you have blanking in game week 29 with those 2 blank fixtures. So it's Newcastle, and who are Newcastle playing that week? Crystal Palace. And Liverpool and Villa don't have a fixture. Now, my team in particular is quite heavily afflicted by that, as I did own 3 Newcastle, also a Palace player. So they're very commonly owned at the moment due to their previous fixtures and the form of those 2 teams. So you need to have a count up. You need to see how many free transfers you've got between now and then and see if you have a real problem. It's not too bad to free hit that week, but the free hit will come in useful because if you glance to the right on that chart, you'll see that game week 34 also has a lot of red in it, indicating possible blank game weeks for the majority of the teams. In front of that blank game week is likely to be the biggest double game week of the season, game week 33, where teams that play in the game week 34 semi-finals of the FA Cup could have their fixtures moved forward a week into game week 33. Any residual postponed fixtures like Newcastle and Crystal Palace could also go into that game week. That their fixture was not brought forward and is the current only spare fixture. So Ben thinks the biggest double is likely to be game week 33. That would lend itself probably to a bench boost if you're working out your chip strategy, because you're likely to have the highest number of teams that double. Therefore, a wild card leading into that week would give you a fairly juicy bench boost. Now, the key thing to take away is those same teams that double in game week 33 are liable to blank the following week in game week 34. So that makes it very difficult to navigate that week by, just using free transfers. Even if you've got 3 or 4 saved up by some sort of miracle by that time, it will be very difficult to have a full 11 in 34 if you've maxed out on a bench boost in game week 33. So what we're likely to see is the majority of people trying to run through game week 29 using free transfers so that they still have their free hit in their pocket to help them navigate around game weeks 33 and 34. The last thing to mention is that game week 36, although it's got a lot of blue on it, is likely to be a smaller double with fewer confirmed double game week fixtures in it. It's possible because Newcastle are like, if Newcastle go deep in the FA Cup and continue to go deep in the FA Cup, they could have 2 double game weeks to come. So they might also double, and they're the most likely team to double in game week 36. But it could be only 1 or 2 teams doubling in that week, rather than being a big double game week like the diagram might suggest. So that's really the summary. I think I've covered most of it.
Bravo, Rich. That was insane. I gotta be honest. You've covered it really, really well there.
Okay.
Jonas, what's your kind of thoughts? What are the things that are keeping you up in the night when you wake up at 2 a.m, which you do every night? You've got FPL on your mind. What are the things that are keeping you up at the moment?
Well, if you ignore Chris Wood scoring every single week,
apart from that,
then, well, I'm trying to find a nice route to navigate 29 as well.
Yeah.
Which I think won't be that hard, given I have 6 players blanking in 29 as of now.
Okay.
But then it's also the upside with the free hit, because if you're trying to not free it in 29, most of your free hit will probably have Haaland.
Yeah.
And do you dare sell Salah and take the loss in value? That's a question.
Yeah.
It's not easy because you would want some Manchester City assets in game week 29. I can't remember exactly who they're playing, but it's not. It's Brighton.
Yeah, looking at 29 isolation. So the fixtures that we know are going to have Everton, West Ham, Ipswich and Forest, Man City, Brighton, Southampton, Wolves, Bournemouth, Brentford, Arsenal, Chelsea, Fulham, Spurs, Leicester, Man United. There is a very small chance that Newcastle and Palace is played in this game week too, according to Ben Crowley. Apparently, it's very small, like a 5% chance, but it just is worth noting that. But yeah, Haaland looks to be the problem there, doesn't he? And the sort of standout captain.
Standout captain. I mean, you could go Chris Wood, couldn't you? Way to Ipswich, or I'm just thinking of alternatives. It's not as good, but it's still a decent, still a decent captaincy shout, and maybe Bruno away to Leicester or something like that. You've got alternatives, but with Arsenal and Chelsea playing each other, that's a difficult one to pick a captain from, isn't it? So yeah, Haaland really does look a good shout, but unless you sell Palmer or something and you have the transfers, then it's difficult to get to Haaland.
I don't mind. Again, it's a while away now, right? So it's easy to say team form, player form now, but Cunha away to Southampton, I don't think it's the worst shot. I think we can expect a Cunha return. I suppose my really early thoughts on it is it worth messing your team around, potentially costing yourself points, costing yourself transfers? I mean, even if Haaland, right? What are we expecting off Haaland? What would be a good return for Haaland in that game? You can't see a hat trick, right? But a brace,
and some bonus,
13 points, 26 points. Even if you can find one other player that's going to get one goal and a couple of bonus, that's like 16 points, for example. 10 points. I think I would pay 10 points to save probably 2 to 3 transfers, plus having my team in a structure that I'm not going to want the following week. And looking at it as well, Wildcard 30 doesn't look to be that great anymore, does it? So I think last time
you haven't got much time with Wildcard 30. I didn't mention that on the summary there, but I think the Game Week 30 games are midweek, so they're on the Tuesday and Wednesday. So you've only really got that Monday to do a wildcard after the Game Week 29 finishes. So do you really want a wildcard with one day and perhaps not all the fixture information in about the double game week or the blank game week to come? Because I think the nearer you get to 31, the more likely you are to have fixtures rearranged. So wildcard 30 looks tricky.
Mikel says 29, Trent to Gvardiol, Palmer to Ahmad, Isak to Haaland, easy. FPL Freddy says Haaland has Leicester at home in 30 also. That is a big point actually, and a double in 34 as well. Obviously a lot will have wildcarded probably in that period, but much thinking about there. What way, Jonas, at the moment are you sort of swaying in terms of having Haaland in 29? Do you think you're going to get him?
It's a tough one. If I'm getting him, I'm getting him primarily only for 29 and 30 because Palmer, I can't sell him ahead of Southampton and Leicester in 27 and 28. Salah, I don't want to sell at all, and he has Southampton in 28 as well. So if I'm getting him, it's probably only for those 2 weeks. And then, well, my wildcard is probably coming as quick as we get info about the rearranged fixtures in 33 and 34. So if that's before Game Week 30 deadline or Game Week 31 deadline, I don't know yet. I have seen some info on it, but I can't remember exactly. I think it was before 31 deadline.
Likely.
So probably just activating as soon as Game Week 30 kicks off.
Wow. How about yourself, Rich? What's your current thoughts? I didn't actually realise. I'm sure I've seen. I didn't realise about that Haaland playing in 30 as well, home to Leicester.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still. If City were playing better, right? If they were more consistent,
and they might be by that time,
I'd be more worried about it. Yeah. They were looking like they were recovering, right? They won 3 or 4 games, and then they fell apart against Real Madrid, didn't they? At the end, and I think teams are not as frightened of them as they used to be. And I think Newcastle could beat them at the weekend. I'm not worried about playing Isak against them, or I probably wouldn't play Lewis Hall this week. But I think Isak can score against City quite easily this weekend, such as his form. So I'm not desperate to get Haaland, and I don't think I'll rip it up. I mean, my biggest problem is I've got quite a few players blanking, so I can't really take out players like Palmer to fund a Haaland move because I need him to appear and play some minutes for me. So I think it really lends itself to people like yourself. I think you've got maybe 3 transfers left this week. You're in a better position to plan to get Haaland in and still run through the game week. I think people who are down to just 1 free transfer now and I'm going to spend money on managers in the next couple of weeks, it makes it very difficult to get Haaland in with 3 transfers. So I'm probably thinking of going without and just taking it on with a different captain.
Interesting stuff. Just to touch on game week 34, or potential blank game week 34. So the FA Cup 5th round draw has been done and it will be played between game week 27 and 28. And yeah, as the draw was coming out, you were just looking, weren't you, and thinking, goodness me. So Preston Burnley doesn't matter. You've got Villa home to Cardiff. Villa obviously going to be really heavy favourites for that. Palace home to Millwall. Palace will be heavy favourites for that. United and Fulham, probably 50-50. I think it's fair to say on form that you'd fancy Fulham, but obviously United would have the home advantage. But either way, a Premier League team there is going to go through. Newcastle home to Brighton, probably the same. Probably fancy Newcastle. Bournemouth and Wolves, there'll definitely be one there. Man City home to Plymouth, and Forest against Ipswich. So it looks like there is very likely to be 4 Premier League teams.
It's almost like there was some warm balls in the bag.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
I mean?
It was a crazy draw. But it looks like it's going to be potentially a fairly hefty blank game week 34, which and therefore a hefty 33. So we'll touch our individual strategy, thoughts, and plans in a second. But yeah, some interesting stuff. Just assistant manager prediction. We just wanted to touch on these before we moved on to our own thoughts around how we're all going to use the chips and things. So if you go onto Fantasy Football Hub, we've got assistant manager predictions now. You can choose your range. You can choose any way you want. They are superb. Looking ahead for game week 25, Arne Slot comes out top. 15.4 predicted points, followed by Emery 14.9. So very, very close on predicted points there, actually. Silver 11.6, Pot at West Ham 10.7. Looking ahead though, so to game week 26, and I suppose the theme here is there doesn't seem to be much opportunity to carry your manager over. It kind of looks like, I think for me in 25, if you use it in 25, you're going to be using transfers in 26 and 27. That's my kind of high level sort of takeaway.
Just that there's no double game week obviously in 26, but, so therefore there's no real sort of double figure projections for that week. But there could well be table bonus opportunities in
yes,
those weeks.
Of course, yeah.
The table is very volatile. So the reason Silver is suddenly come onto radars is that he's playing Nottingham Forest at home this week, and Fulham are actually the favourites to win that game.
Yeah.
But they will also get table bonus if they win it. Yeah, so Forest are maybe a bit leggy. They went to Exeter, played extra time, penalties in the late FA Cup game. That was harder for them to get through than they thought. Okay, read into that what you will, but Silver, if I was picking the two, which Forest is going to turn up? The team that lost 5-0 at Bournemouth, or the team that beats Brighton 7-0? You don't know who you're going to get with that Forest team this weekend. So a lot of people are benching Wood this weekend, for instance, because of that. So you've got a potential 16, 17 pointer there if Fulham turn it on against Forest. So even a single game week triple captain, if you don't fancy Emery or Slot, could well, it's quite attractive. So but most people will swap from Moyes to Emery just because of the double game week, because they'll also have a table bonus opportunity against Liverpool again. So that's good. But then 26, if results are different and don't go your way, you could have Eddie Howe with a double with a table bonus opportunity. You could have Emery could get a table bonus opportunity against Chelsea if results go a certain way. So that 26 could change quite quite considerably.
It could. I think the takeaway for me here, in all three of these tables, almost all the managers. I think actually all the managers are different. We've got 14 out of the 15 are different managers, which basically means that there's not much in terms of being able to kind of roll one onto the other. You'll probably be transferring. So, what are your thoughts, Jonas, on people using the assistant manager chip in 25? Do you think it's a good idea, or would you could have urged them to use it a bit later in the season?
I think I'd probably advise people to do it later on, like going for game week 36 to 38, for example. Yeah. We will probably see a lot of upsets, especially in the last game week. Probably chances for table bonus, and you have the double. Then again, you'll have a good chance of getting only green arrows in those last 3 games if you have the chip activated as well. So it might be hard for us who already have used it, but I feel like many people have used it already. But to actually get green arrows in those game weeks, unless you have a player performing really well, for example, and like if you say Eddie Howe in 36, for example, if Newcastle does really well, and it's Jacob Murphy scoring all the goals or whatever, they'll probably have a very, very big edge towards us.
Yeah.
Good point.
That was my initial plan, playing in 36, but then I think most of us were planning to play either 36 or 33. I don't know what's the popular one.
Yeah, the 31 to 33 window. Yeah, people seem to have cooled on that a bit now because of the bench boost being the correct week, or seemingly the correct week to play it in 33 with the big double, because you don't necessarily want your judgment clouded or the inability to play it. If you're putting it in 31 to 33, you've got a wild card in game week 30 when you may not have all the info, because you've got a wild card into that period. You can't wild card when you play the assistant manager, so it's just a very crowded space, isn't it, in and around the blank to play it. So it really looks like, as Jonas said, the end of the season looks to be the alternative if you don't go this week.
Yeah, and I think I like that more than going now.
Agree. If you had the triple captain and chips still, would you use a triple this week in 25? I think that's probably the better.
That's what I would do. Yeah. If I had all my chips left, I triple captain in 25.
Salah's form is so good. This is the last chance, guaranteed chance you've got of a Salah double. Of course you can do it again. You could get 87 points or even more. Next week could get 100 points this week. It's like, if you have a TC and you're not chip tied, as it were, then play it.
Yep, definitely.
Agreed.
So let's have a quick chat then around sort of our own, because I think all three of us are in fairly different positions, different transfer counts, maybe different chips, etc. And hopefully, between the three of us, we'll sort of resonate with. So I'll just kind of run through my thought process and plan first. So I've got slot in place now, 3 free transfers, and a fairly good team this week. I think the main thing which has changed my thinking this week on when to use my free hit is the FA Cup draw for the 5th round. I think if we'd have seen a lot of close ties like Man City versus Newcastle, wherever, and there's a fair chance that we wouldn't see a fairly big blank in 34. I would have probably used my free hit personally in 29. And as I mentioned in the last pod, take advantage of teams like Palace, Bournemouth and all that now. I've got a lot of really good fixtures now. But I think the fact now that 33 looks like it's going to be quite big, the teams that are 34, the teams that double in 33 are now going to blank in 34. I think I completely changed my mind on that now. And I think I'll be free hitting in 34. So I've changed my strategy, I think, now to, I think I'm just going to try and hold through 29. I think I'm going to keep, I'm looking this week, I can make a transfer. I don't have to make a transfer this week, so I can even go into next week now with having slot in place and 4 free transfers going into next week. So obviously a really nice place to be to safely navigate me through 29. I think I'll probably be wildcarding potentially. I think, just judging on what we all spoke about then, and knowing now that Haaland plays in 30, I think I'm going to focus my 4 transfers around potentially looking to get Haaland in 29 and in 30. And I think that I'm probably going to wildcard in either 31 or 32. I'm going to play my bench boost in 33, free hit in 34. And the final decision I've got to make then is triple captain, where the last 2 opportunities for me are going to either be home to Southampton, probably in 28, or wait for a double game week in 36. My initial thoughts at the moment are to probably wait for a double in 36, because I think that while Salah will do well, he could easily get a 12, 13, 14 pointer against Southampton. If you can get on someone like an Isak, or I don't know, maybe like an Mbeumo or a Palmer or someone to have a double towards the end of the season where Chelsea are potentially chasing a Champions League spot or something, I really like the upside. And to Jonas's point too, I think it's a really nice one actually. How nice would it be to still hold a chip towards the end of the season where you're kind of practically guaranteed a green arrow as well? So they're my musings. But obviously each team is different. Jonas, what's your thoughts on your chips the rest of the season?
Well, first and foremost, I won't guarantee green arrows for anyone. But my chip strategy is really, really similar to yours.
Okay.
I'm looking to wildcard in 31.
Yeah.
And then just dead ending into 29 and just playing the team another week. It depends when we get the info, but it sounds like it's 31 before 31 deadline. Then I'm probably bench boosting in 33, free hitting 34, and then using my triple captain in 36 as well. I just think having 2 fixtures for potentially Isak, for example, it's just the ceiling can be so much higher than Salah in just 1 game week against Southampton.
How many transfers have you got saved at the moment?
Currently only 1, and I'm probably looking to just ignoring Aston Villa. I have Consta. There's an Emery press conference tomorrow. We'll probably hear more. But I'm looking to just roll my transfers and just see how it goes. Just hope Villa lose both games, really.
Yeah. Okay. And how about yourself, Rich?
Don't have any saved transfers. Ended up using all of them in the week leading up to. I had 4 saved, so I've been very patient through the whole of January. But then, due to some early moves before the fixtures were announced, I ended up spending my last transfer on Raya to Pickford, just to play the double game week upside for Everton and doubling up on the defence. So I now have just 1 free transfer, which I'm going to use this week on a manager change, the obvious manager change of Moyes to Emery. Yeah. I have Rodgers, so that's just because he's been in my team all season. So I'm strong this week. 3 Liverpool, Rodgers, and Emery.
Oh.
But no free transfers, and I have 7 players blanking in game week 29. So I'm up against it to make 4 transfers in 26, 27, 28, and 29, or use all my available free transfers just to get 11 players out. So I'm going to hope to save. My team's good. You'll see it on screen in a minute. All the players are great. The fixtures are good. I have a Mbeumo, I have a Bournemouth mid. I've got everything in place but it's going to be very boring. I'm just going to be saving every week where I can, and then playing through 29. I'll definitely wait for the information on fixtures. If that means wildcarding in 32, so be it. I will wait for the info, and then I haven't written off doing something that's a little bit against the template. You see, I'm 900k. I need to make something happen. I might free hit 33 and wildcard 34 or something like that, just to be different and try and play the double game week upside. It depends how it falls and who gets through, obviously. But if I can see that I'm getting I can by free hitting 33 rather than defensively in the blank, I might just try that to try and make something happen, because doing what I do and seeing so many teams week in, week out, they're all so similar.
Yeah, of course.
How are you going to gain by having just the same players as everybody else? So having the same chip strategy as everybody else that we're all sharing every week, I just feel like I want to do something different. So it could be that a free hit in the double looks possible. It may not be optimum. The algorithms and the AIs may tell you that it's not, but I might give that a try if I'm still way up the ranks by then. But yeah, I've still got a TC, and I will, like Jonas says, I'll probably use that on an Isak in a random double.
And thoughts on Haaland, Rich? Would you be able to get there?
Probably, because of my lack of transfers, I will probably have to leave it alone. Although I'm not averse to selling Palmer and Trent to fund a move for Haaland off Gakpo or something like that in game week 29. I think I like the fact that you can now save up to 5 transfers, because if you use them all in that week, it makes it a lot more flexible to move money around. Before, if you had to keep on doing a transfer every week because you had 2 in the bank, it would have been much harder to navigate through 29. But now, hopefully, if I stay injury free, I mean, Jonas had a lot of injuries recently. I just need my team to stay injury free over the coming month, and then I hope I can play through.
Just a question of FPL, Freddie, Rich. Assuming you would bench boost in 36, would mean you'd probably not have another double left for the triple. So you could.
Yeah, I mean, it means, as I say, it means doing something a bit different. Like, so if there's only 2 doubles left, it would mean triple capturing, say, Salah against Southampton.
Exactly, yeah, that's right.
And taking that on.
Yep.
And just looking at whether or not it's feasible. It all depends on the fixtures and the players that I've maybe got in my side, coming out of that free hit as well. How does game week 34 look if I've got to navigate through it? And then if I wildcard, then does it screw up the team for the rest of the season? I mean, it's probably not optimal, but it could be a possibility.
Great stuff. As we're all talking about saving transfers and transferring managers, we've got the Game Week 25 transfer targets up. But we haven't touched on a few players, actually. Ollie Watkins has been kind of the talk of the town this week. But Rich, you've got some players. You've got Senesi, Wutari. You can probably chuck up Semenyo and Kluivert in there as well.
Kirkes, isn't it? Kirkes and Wutari. Yeah, I mean, I think we've had Kluivert on in previous weeks. We try and put different faces up here each week. Obviously, any Bournemouth asset, you could have Huijsen, you could have Kirkes at the back. Very, very good options. And then the 3 in midfield. There's been lots of debate each week over who's best over Kluivert, Dango, and Semenyo. They're all really good options. Their fixtures are really great right up until Double Game Week 33, where they might also double. Yeah. So investing in Bournemouth now, really over the long, you've got a great run of fixtures, great form team, huge value in their assets. They make great enablers with great prospects. So definitely Bournemouth assets are where you should go, particularly if you're looking to generate money to use elsewhere, which a lot of people are. I mean, I'm seeing people coming off Bruno, your favourite, Jonas, to fun moves for another chap on that chart, Ollie Watkins. We're all anxiously waiting the press conference, I think, tomorrow. If he's past fit and he's going to play, you're going to see a lot of late moves for Watkins. Yep. This week, but if he doesn't play, what's the new guy called? Marlon may well play, I think, up front. Yeah. But Rodgers is a good, if you haven't had Rodgers or got Rodgers at the moment, I think he's probably the best, most reliable pick for Villa this week. Still only 5.6, and who can resist a double, Fergie? You've got to play a double if you're. Exactly. So I think going Emery, having a Villa player as well. I don't think it's essential to have 3 Villa assets, including the manager, but certainly if you want to go Watkins and can find a way to get to him that doesn't involve selling Isak, I think I'd go there. I wouldn't sell Isak for him though because of the money I've got in Isak.
I also think though, Man City are just ripe to score against. It'll be a really good game. But would you really be surprised if Isak scored against Man City? Got a golden assist? No. Absolutely not. No. So I mean, you can talk about Matessa because you put him. Yeah, I like the look of Palace recently. I think they've really turned the corner. I like the look of their run. They got 3 at home in the next 4 starts with Everton this week. I think Mateta looks a real shout, and I'm jealous of you owning Munoz. I think you own Munoz, Rich, don't you? Which I'm very, very I'm really jealous of that. Actually, if I was to make transfers this week, I'd be targeting Palace. But as we know, they're very, very likely to blank in 29, and this is the running theme, which is always a pain in the arse at this point of the season. But Munoz and Mateta, I think, look excellent picks the next 4 game weeks. So I think if you don't care about 29 or you've got like stacks and stacks of transfers, I really think one of those two could be a really shrewd pick. And Mateta's quite cheap. I think it's like 7.3. So he's an easy flip from, Woods, maybe even João Pedro if you've got kind of 1.5 in the bank. Jonas, what are your thoughts on, on players, if you could, that you'd be targeting over the next week or two? And what do you think of the Isak to Watkins move?
Well, I do like the Isak to Watkins move if you have the free transfers to... You'd probably look at dumping Watkins right after 25.
Yeah, I agree.
You won't hold him for long. You have the replacements such as Havertz, who just got injured. There was this other guy as well. I can't remember. I looked at it earlier. But Jackson as well, who had that was the guy. Yeah. So if you have the free transfers and you're either free hitting in 29, one of those two, then sure, go for it. Me personally, I think I might not be there, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. There's a lot of stacked midfield as well, aren't they? Which is if you've got. Sorry.
I also think people. Well, I've seen a bit of it, but I think Arsenal attacking assets are as well is maybe not talked about much.
Yeah.
Because you have Bournemouth with the 3 fantastic choices and good fixtures, but Arsenal also are probably down to just 3 choices offensively now.
Yeah.
And they also have all right fixtures, and they play in 29 against Chelsea, who's not a great defensive team. They have United before that, then Forest, West Ham, Leicester. So Leicester, West Ham, the next 2. And I think both Trossard, who might play up front.
I think so.
And that young guy, I
think Nwaneri. I mean, if you want a Haaland enabler, then Nwaneri at 4.5 will get you most of the way there, won't it? Off Palmer. If you think about it.
I suppose so, but you could go for them as early as now as well and try to look past the double.
Yeah,
because they do have Leicester, who's a very bad defensive team, and then West Ham is not that great. Then you have Forest, but if you have that guy, he's 4.5. Worst case, someone comes back, Saka, Martinelli, whatever, and you have a 4.5 that might get a few minutes on your bench. It's not the end of the world. I think that can be a risk worth taking, given that he probably will play the next few game weeks.
I think that's an excellent shout, Jonas. I didn't thought of Trossard really either, but he's going to be the senior forward now, right? And in the front 3, it's going to be Trossard, Sterling, and Nwaneri, I guess, is going to be the front 3. Do you think?
I would think so. Who else would it be?
Yeah, exactly.
How bad is Jesus' injury? Is he out forever?
I think he's out for a while. Is he?
Is he? Okay, I'll have to look that up. But yeah, I mean, certainly. But you have to say what's that going to do to Arsenal's output?
Yeah, of course. But it is Leicester and West Ham. To Jonas's point, two of the worst defenses. Really good points there, Jonas. I really like that, and that enabler as well with Nwaneri. We're just saying how can we get to Haaland. There's the route, right? We can all flip from a 3-5-2 to a 3-4-3. I suppose the only thing, and the point I was going to make earlier, we've got such stacked midfields at the moment. Salah, Palmer, potentially Mbeumo or Bruno. We're on about getting Bournemouth mids. We're on about it's really hard to who do you let go? Like I want to bring in another midfielder this week, potentially, or next week, another Bournemouth midfielder. But who do I sell this week out of Salah, Palmer, and Mbeumo and Rodgers? I just can't. I can't sell any of those this week. So it's really, really tough. But really, really good ideas there, Jonas. I like that. Very good indeed.
But you have to question again how much better is an Arsenal attack. We have no idea how good it is compared to a Bournemouth attack that have looked very good. Scored. Was it 5 against Nottingham Forest, who's a fantastic defensive team?
Jesus is out. He's out for the season, ACL. So So yeah, we just had a super chat off OP Talent. AM 25 for Emery and free transfer 26-27. Switch or wait until 36-38.
It depends whether you've got a TC, OP. If you've still got your TC, I'd put that on Salah over using your AM this week. But it might still be tempting if I had a fresh AM to go slot again, because I don't know what your rank position is, but I think the slot choice is a better choice for people who are high up the ranks. I think if you're chasing, you should be looking for table bonus with your AM, as we've learnt, and we have all learnt in the last week. Then, but if you want to play safe and look after a rank, then slot is still a good bet.
Agree.
There you go.
A quick look at predicted points for the next 4 game weeks. This goes up to game week 28. Obviously includes the double this week. Salah, as you can expect, far and away. What a dominant player this season. Just absolutely incredible. 40 points he's predicted to score over the next 4 game weeks. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Palmer 31, Haaland 26, Isak 26. I mean, the Isak, I think it's dangerous to let him go. Really do. Trent 25, Gakpo 25, Watkins 25, Luis Diaz 23, Son, Mateta, and Nkunku has made a rise to 22, and Buemo as well. And then a few of the Bournemouth players in there as well. Some really interesting players. It's all very jammed up between like 4th and 20th. There's only 4 points between them all, but I think we mentioned most of those players. A very short conversation this week on the best captain for game week 25. The poll, 96.5% have gone for Mohamed Salah, top of the predicted points. Absolute no-brainer. Triple captain. I think I prefer it this week over the assistant manager. I think we're all agreed on that, aren't we? That this is the time to kind of use it. This is where the upside is. I don't think there's any vice shouts. Any interest on any vices?
Rogers is my vice at the moment.
Rogers, yeah.
Rather than Trent or Gakpo. I think there was. I don't know if anything's true, but someone said Gakpo limped off last night. Has he got an injury, or is that still a vague one? I don't know.
I don't know. He walked with a slight limp and a grimace. His ex grimace was really high. I'm not sure what that means. Not sure what that means.
He did go missing a bit yesterday, didn't he? He didn't have a great game, but hopefully he's okay.
Yeah,
hopefully he's okay. But Rogers is my vice at the moment, but there's no real standout. I mean, he's killed the game a bit, Salah, hasn't he, through his consistency? So definitely got to put it on Salah.
Thoughts there, Jonas, on your vice?
Well, Watkins, if I had him.
Yeah. Good job.
Then probably Trent, and then Rogers, I guess. Rogers, Gakpo, I think they're pretty equal.
Yeah. Good stuff. Just a quick look at the Hub AI Game Week 25 Wildcard team. So this is if you this is kind of highlights maybe a couple of trending players. I don't know if anyone's seen, but Jorgensen has been confirmed as the Chelsea keeper. From now on, he's the new number 1. It was confirmed this morning. He's only 4.2 million, so he's on the bench for the wildcard team. Kepa is top, so he is in. We've got Trent, Virgil, Luca Dean, Munoz, and then Howard Bellis is the 4 million enabler there. So a very, very strong defense, targeting a double this week as well. And then Salah, Rogers, Palmer, Utara, Semenyo. What a midfield that is. And then Watkins, Isak, and then the 4.4 million Stewart. So it's very much targeting, the money on the pitch, as it always does.
The Hub AI wildcard team is not worried about running through game week 29, are they?
It's absolutely not. But if you did want to, if we did want to say that we are going to free hit or not in 29, it would obviously think about that as well. Okay. And it does actually have 5 free transfers as well, the Hub AI. It's in
fair enough.
It's in pretty good shape.
It's fairly blasé then.
It's blasé. Good question, this one from Soul Searcher. Would you go Wood to Watkins? It's a good question. What do you think, Jonas?
Well, I think it's a tough one. Yeah, I haven't owned Wood all season, I don't really like him as a pick, but I think he's overperformed massively, just as his XG suggests.
Absolutely.
But maybe I'm the dumb one for not picking him at all. But I think with their upcoming fixtures, I think if there was a time to sell, it would be probably now.
Agree.
If you're not selling now, you're probably never selling him.
What do you think, Fergie, having benefited from virtually all of his goals?
Yeah, I haven't.
What do you think?
I haven't looked, but I haven't looked at my budget. But if I can go Wood to Watkins for free this week, and Watkins confirmed fit, I'm definitely doing it this week. 100%. Because as Jonas said, the fixtures now turn. They turn for Forest, and he's going to score the odd goal, right? But you can't just hold on to a player when there's so many potential better options around as well, right? So yeah, that's my thoughts. Fergie is a punt for game week 25. You guys are going to hate this punt. Awful. It is. If there was ever a punt, then this is it in terms of just going for someone. We haven't mentioned him. I don't think we've mentioned him since like pre-season, but certain things have happened for this team, and I'm probably looking a bit into the future here. I wouldn't bring him in this week or next week, but I reckon, Rich, that our game week 27 thumbnail, right, which will, by the way, be our 200th episode.
Green Arrow 200.
Right? We'll have this player on. And I'll get laughed at for this week. I'll maybe get laughed at next week. But this is a 4-game week punt. He's a midfielder. Okay. He's got 20. He's had 20 appearances this season, which is very deceiving, I may add.
That's extremely deceiving.
2 goals, 1 assist. The stats are nothing to shout about. He's got Brighton away this week, Villa away the week after, Southampton at home, and Leicester at home, and they're the ones I'm really targeting. But I do think Brighton away and Villa away, there could be returns there as well. He's going to be playing as the number 9 for a top team who create a lot of chances. They've got one of the best players in the league, if not the world, playing him behind him as well. I can't believe I'm hyping him up this much. I can't believe I'm hyping this period miss. I may be wrong, but I think he's actually the top scorer for this team as well throughout the whole season. He scored a hat-trick this season as well. But the player that I think is going to be on everyone's lips. You laugh all you want, Rich. We said this about Jackson.
Okay,
we said this about Jackson.
I can see the content coming already, just not from me.
The thumbnail for game week 27 will have Christopher Nkunku on the front because Nicholas Jackson has been ruled out. Now, Nkunku, I think, is in the driving seat. He played on the weekend. Apparently didn't play very well, but Chelsea didn't play very well, right? I think Brighton and Villa are not great defensively, but these back-to-back home games are around Southampton, Leicester in 27-29. I think are superb. He's classed as a midfielder. He's mega cheap. He's probably something like 6.3 or something like that. Ridiculously cheap. And I think, mate, please bookmark this. It's the 13th of February. It's before Valentine's Day, right? But by the end of the month, you will see Christopher Nkunku's face on every YouTube thumbnail, everywhere, because he is going to score against Brighton or Villa. And then he's home to Southampton and Leicester. He also plays in 29, even though he is away to Arsenal. He's going to be everywhere. I really do. But yeah, Christopher Nkunku. Yeah. I really slow rolled that, didn't I? Jonas, what do you think? Would you be signing Christopher Nkunku in the next 2 to 3 weeks?
I might have PTSD from earlier in the season.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
But you can't deny that if he's going to get minutes, he's probably a very good pick. But I'd like to see some minute security before moving to him. That's probably why you were saying as well that not bringing him in this week, but in 27 after he's played 2 games and then have Southampton and Leicester both at home. I get it. It's a good shout, but I guess time will tell. It seems like Maresca doesn't really like him that much, so you might find another idea play. I don't know, Dewsbury Hall or something up front.
Dewsbury Hall. If they play Dewsbury Hall up front again of Nkunku, that makes something. But no, I take your point.
I think
your point.
I think I'd rather punt on Nwaneri than Nkunku. I think
that says something as well.
I think he's a better punt. They both begin with N, but that's when the similarity ends, I think, to be honest. I think Nwaneri is a better punt.
I think the thing with getting on him on 27, this is why I'm calling him out now, right? I think the thing, if he gets a goal in the next 2 games, I think he'd be quite popular ahead of 27 personally. If you get on him now and you get the goal while he's got 0.0 whatever ownership, that's the time to get the points. And he is a midfielder as well. So I'm just shouting him out nice and early. I think Mark Gui is out for ages as well, so he hasn't got much competition. He'd be fighting the likes of maybe Sancho, maybe Dewsbury Hall, as you say, Jonas, or Pedro Neto, or wherever else. For all their billions of players, they haven't got any fit forwards unless they maybe play Palmer up front. So shouting him out now. I think we spent enough time talking about Christopher Nkunku, haven't we? Should we move on? Rich, we've got your team app for Double Game Week 25. Do you want to talk us through what you'll be doing this week?
Yes, I'll just be making a simple manager change, a very popular manager change this week, which will be Moyes to Emery for the Villa double. I will play Pickford in goal, Trent, Gabriel, and Munoz will come in, who I benched last week for his 11-pointer. But he'll come in for Palace. Great midfield of Salah, Rodgers, Palmer, Mbeumo, and Kluivert. And then the 2 up front, Gakpo and Isak. I'm reluctantly having to bench Raul Jimenez at home to Forest. So he's a great first bencher, but someone's got to be benched. And Hall and Mikolenko are the easy choices to bench for their away games. So that's it, basically. Really happy with the team. I don't see any need to take anybody out over the coming weeks. So I'm hoping I can build up a bank of transfers to get me through game week 29. I did bring Mbeumo in for Fernandes the day before the double got announced. I probably wouldn't have made that transfer because, like you, Jonas, I still think Bruno's a good pick and can actually come through with some good moves.
Mbeumo was much better than Bruno. I'm sorry.
I think so. And I did it. There was a 0.2 swing on the Thursday night. I thought, okay, I'll get that done, and then they dropped the fixture in. But I went from 4 transfers in the bank to no transfers in the bank, and so now I've got to start building them up again. But I'm very happy with the team, and hopefully with that team and 5 doublers, including the manager, I'll do well.
Very nice, sweet.
Well, about Bruno, because he's in my team right now, and Mbeumo is also in my team. But Bruno has been playing very deep lately, which I think really hurts him as an FPL pick, just because he doesn't create as much. He isn't as much involved, and they even played Menu up front instead of playing Bruno at a false 9 or whatever. But you never know. He's a pen taker, and he's a monster for bonus points as well, and he can score 1 penalty and then suddenly be a double-digit haul.
I don't have a problem with Bruno as a fantasy asset. I think he's a very good fantasy asset, but in a very poor team. And therefore, because of that, I think because of his price, you can do quite a bit with the money. It doesn't strike me as an urgent transfer for you to have to make, which means you'll probably have him hanging around until 29 when you want to move him on for Haaland, say, and just downgrade him as part of funding Haaland. It just doesn't seem like it's urgent for you to move him, but you could, if Watkins is fit, you could use him as a way to get to Watkins if you went to, say, Rodgers and just use the doubles.
Yeah, I guess it depends, because I really don't like him playing deep. And I've watched a few Man United games as well. He doesn't look as good as when he played in that number 10 spot, and especially not that was earlier under Ten Hag, but he has played as one of those wider attacking players as well. Has done all right, I guess, but Amorim probably wants a more stable midfield then. And if I were to sell him this week, it would be a hit, and I'm not sure that's even worth it. It would probably be João Pedro or and die out to Watkins and Bruno down to whoever I can afford, I guess. But I don't think that's worth a -4 at all, because he might end up scoring a brace against Tottenham. You never know.
Yeah,
I can't get on your train, boys. I just think Mbeumo is by far a better option than Bruno over the next few. They got the fixtures as well on pens. He's on pens the same as Bruno. I know United get a lot of pens, but can't do it. Mbeumo for me all day long. Rich, your optimized transfer is to save this week, which is what you'll be doing in terms of players. Sorry, obviously, you'll be making a manager switch, and in terms of if you were looking to be a tad aggressive, Isak to Watkins is the recommendation there. Quite obvious there. Jonas, we've got your team on screen. Do you want to talk us through your plans for the week?
Yeah, sure. I've mentioned it a few times earlier, but I'm looking at just probably not doing anything at all. Just captaining Salah, but I'll have to wait until tomorrow and get the info from the press conference and see how Contra's going along, if he's even playing at all or if he's completely dead. I don't know. I wish I had more free transfers. I don't, and it looks like I'm just playing the team on screen, really, just exactly like that. So, keeping slots, not doing anything at all.
So if Cons is,
would you consider a Bournemouth defender like Huijsen or someone like that maybe for Konsa if he's out?
Yeah, I could. I got some money in the bank as well. I have just shy of 1 million, I think, in the bank, so I could afford a Bournemouth defender. Yeah. Or I could. That's probably what I'm planning on doing later on, but I'm looking to bring in some Arsenal players for next game week against West Ham, probably a defender maybe. And that would be for either Konsa or Hall, who I'm looking to sell ahead of their blank in 29. Whereas I have Munoz, who's also blanking in 29, but he has Ipswich at home in 28. And
yeah, you got to keep. Yeah.
And that's the money fixture, I guess. That and Everton home this week.
Yeah, your recommended transfer is to save as well, Jonas. Don't forget, if you're watching and you want your own recommended transfers, you go to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, input your team. It only takes a second, and it will analyze your team, give you a rating, and tell you your most optimal moves for your team. And Jonas, if you were to make aggressive transfers, attack the game week, it says João Pedro to Watkins, funded by Bruno to Rodgers. They are the aggressive moves that the AI is recommending.
Yeah, I would actually love those moves if I were locked in on going free at 29.
Yeah,
I think they push you close to it, don't they? They push you close to it.
Yeah. My team this week, quite happy. Pickford in goal. Trent, Gabriel. I'm going to play Robinson. Home to Forest, I think, ahead of João Pedro, even though João Pedro has got quite high predicted points this week, 4.9 ahead of Anthony Robinson's 3.8. Would you guys play? I can't actually, because it's a defender against an attacker. But who would you prefer if you had to pick out of Robinson and João Pedro?
Probably João Pedro, just because he's an attacker and has the penalties. But there have been some rumors going around about him potentially not starting.
Okay.
So that's also something to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, I've been very disappointed with João Pedro recently. I sold him a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't regretted it. I just I don't think I'd start him. I mean, I've seen people benching Wood this week, mate. So I'm glad you got him in there.
So Salah, Rodgers, Palmer, and Mbeumo, and I got Utara in already, and I'm going Isak,
lovely midfield,
Isak and Wood. So my thought I could use a transfer or two here and really kind of attack. I could do Wood to. Well, depending on the Watkins, I can't do Wood directly to Watkins because I haven't got the money. which again is something we haven't even talked about, right? Which is the butterfly effect of having to spend 1.5 million on slot. If I hadn't have had that, I could have gone Woods straight to Watkins. All these things we don't really think about, do we? Or I could do. I also really like the look of Munoz as well, but again, I'm kind of playing my way then towards a free hit in 29, which is really awkward. But I'm tempted to just probably play Wood this week. I think. I think, and then next week I'm gonna sell Rodgers for Pivot, I think, and have a double up of a Bournemouth midfield there. So looks like I'm stuck with Wood for a while yet, but I've got a day or two to think about it. Obviously,
would slot to Emery give you enough money for Wood to Watkins?
Is that $1 million or $500,000?
It's 0.7.
0.7. It probably would actually. But it means I've only got sort of double Liverpool then. So I'd be going against. If Liverpool did well, it makes sense. It makes sense.
How you could get there?
Yeah, I could go another way. I could downgrade another player maybe. But yeah, I'll give it some thought. But based on what we've just said, I think you should keep Chris Wood anyway. I'd be keeping exactly
goals out of him.
Well, this is it. I can just save and go into next week with 4 free transfers, right? And then make a decision on the manager. Make a decision and probably do Rodgers to Kluivert, for example. Still in really good shape. Even the week after, Woods away to Newcastle, I can just play him or then move on to someone, onto someone else who kind of emerges or whatever. So probably just
you're in a nice position with all those transfers, mate. You've come through last week's storm, but with a pocket full of transfers, so it's nice, really.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, but I'm just aware. I don't want to fall, but I'm always nervous about kind of falling behind the curve on certain things. So those who've got like Gakpo this week, if Gakpo goes off at home to Wolves, which he might get two bloody goals or whatever else. It's, and I've got Wood away to Fulham. All right, Wood may score. It's unlikely, but anyway, lots to think about. But yeah, interesting. But I think this whole thing with me, I think my thing this week now is I'm definitely going to free hit in 34 and not 29, which changes my whole thinking from a fortnight ago. By the way that the FA Cup has gone, so my optimized transfer this week, it recommends I should do Rico Lewis to Luca Dean. I can just do that for free. May not be a bad shout. I probably won't because I've got a decent 11 out with João Pedro on the bench and Hall on the bench as well. And my aggressive transfers, if I was to use all 3 transfers, it says Wood to Watkins, and this is part funded by Mbuemo to Semenyo and Hall to Luca Dean. I'm not sure if I could do it. If I did Hall to Dean, I think I might be just short still of going Wood to Watkins.
Hall to Huijsen then, because he's cheaper. He's 4.4.
Could be a shout then potentially, but then I might actually have a benching headache. I'll have to give it some thought. But yeah, plenty of options there because I'm not fussed for keeping Hall or Lewis. So I'm happy to kind of let them go.
I think Watkins looks primed to get 20 points this game week, doesn't he?
Don't say that now, Rich. Don't say that now.
I know no one's going to own him because of Isak inertia, and if you've got the transfers, it's very tempting.
It'd be nice to own Isak and Watkins. Really would.
Very tempting.
That is it from us for this week. A bumper episode this week. Obviously, so much to talk about, and having Jonas on as well has been absolutely superb. Thank you so much, Jonas. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for everyone who joins in the chat. Those who watch it back and those listening on the podcast versions, your support is very, very much appreciated. Jonas, where can people get hold of you?
On Twitter or X, ASC_FPL.
Great stuff, and thanks again, Jonas. It's been absolutely superb to have you on.
It's been a pleasure being on as well.
Absolutely superb. Rich, thank you so much. Where can people get hold of you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on X and Blue Sky.
Great to have you with us, as usual, Rich. Well, I say great to have you with us. You're always with us, but great to have you back. I meant to say, sorry. My handle on Twitter and Blue Sky is at FFH_Fergi. This podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. Rich and I will be back next week. Looking forward to game week, single game. How boring, Rich. Single game week 26. In the meantime, we hope you have a fantastic Double Game week 25, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.